So, Bellular dropped a little video about why Azeroth is in big trouble. This will be our first video of the day. Let's check it out. Let's see why indeed, besides the fact of maybe some lacking in some subs, why Azeroth is in big trouble. Big daddy trouble. Let's see.
You just saw it. This trio of characters that you haven't met in-game just appeared for another cinematic. Looked pretty cool, they did something, but maybe you're wondering, what the hell's actually going on?
Yeah, what is going on?
You're
We
going
really
to
don't
learn
know.
the full story so far, so that when 10-1 starts, you will know exactly what is going on, why it's happening, and what to look out for.
Yeah, honestly, I'm still confused as to
In
why these
opening
guys
the
are
way, we see
super
Farak
dangerous for
just turn
Azeroth.
into a ball of fire and fly straight into the floor.
Yeah.
But to understand why he did that, we've got to go back in time tens of thousands of years ago. Azeroth had been overran by these Void guys, but then these Order guys, who we call the Titans,
That's
kicked
a
them
cool
out.
animation.
They cleaned
Ripping
the
out
place up a bit, and then they left
Titans.
this lot in charge, the Titan Keepers. The Titans disappeared off into space and promptly got themselves killed. Ish. Now, way back in Azeroth, their keepers just got to work, bringing their creator's order about on the world, cleansing it of the remaining void.
Not just bringing order about, but lying to our faces about everything that happened before we got here.
Corruption and acting as its guardians. You see, the world has a super powerful being at its center called
Okay, that
Azeroth.
sounds nasty.
The Titans think that Azeroth is one of them, and they want to nurture her. Now enter this guy, Tyr, and his boss, Odin. So Odin asked
Odin's
Tyr
probably the
to
dick
head
of
to
dicks.
the Isles and to get
Of
the
all the Titan Keepers, Odin's the dick of dicks, for sure.
halls of infusion up and running. They essentially would work to purify the corruption out of the land's water and instead infuse them with order. Yep, they're putting frickin' chemicals in the water that are turning the local inhabitants towards the Titans' way of thinking.
Yeah.
And mixed up with all of
Sounds
this,
like a cult.
experiments, because if you get high renown with the Dragon Scale expedition, you'll find yourself venturing into Tyr's old laboratory. And that is where the dots connect. And a quick thing, it's almost the end of the month. And that's why I've got this really awesome coin. We made a coin. Amongst the other things that are on our Patreon loot tier for
I have to
for
say,
this
Bellular's
month.
Patreon's
if you'd
actually
like to
pretty
get a
badass.
big old bundle of merch, including our
He gives
very,
away
very
some cool
snazzy,
stuff.
Collectible coin. You can check that out on Patreon, where we've also got more
Exactly. Is it time to
behind-the-scenes
drink the
content,
Kool-Aid?
early access
Drink your
videos,
Titan Kool-Aid.
And yeah, we're just pumping real hard on that stuff. So if you want to support us, then the link is down below. Thank you, and let's get into some real juicy lore. Okay, so we all know the story of the dragon
Aspects and
aspect.
the incarnates,
One day, a terrible proto-dragon called Galakrond grew powerful beyond all comprehension.
Craziest thing that we've learned about the Galakrond story is we thought the Titans empowered these drakes to fight off Galakrond because Galakrond was a problem. And then we realized the Titans created Galakrond too. Yep, double fucked.
All around it, even its own kin, truly threatened
They're the reason that
world
he
itself.
even existed,
Now,
all
a
this
desperate
experimenting
Tyr
and stuff that they did.
pleaded with a group of young proto-drakes, right, for help. And eventually, they all banded together and defeated the terrible Galakrond. Those proto-drakes,
So was
Malygos,
born the Aspects.
Ysera, Alexstrasza, Neltharion, and Nosdormu were uplifted, transformed by the magic of order into the noble forms that we know today. But where did that Galakrond come from? I mean, did he just get
As I
really
just said.
hungry one day? Well, this is where those dots connect, because venturing into Tyr's old lab, we discover consoles containing information on the aspects that we know. Yet,
That's right.
venture deeper, and we curiously see another bunch of information pertaining to elementally infused proto-drakes. This is curious to the point of seeming like Tyr himself created the incarnates that we know today. And it sure
Maybe.
seems that Tyr had been experimenting
So are these
with
guys in there right now?
infusing things into these proto-dragons.
Are these guys in there, or did they just? Is this just an animation that Bellular made? Like, these guys just been there the whole time? There's no way they were with these models. These models just got added to the game, but that's interesting.
Returning to past lore, we actually had already known that Tyr felt guilty about the Galakrond situation, and essentially all signs do point towards Tyr perhaps infusing Galakrond
there?
with decay, inadvertently creating the beast that he would later enlist the Dragon
That's part of the
Aspect
quest
to
line.
help
Okay.
destroy.
Gotcha.
Of course, with the aspects uplifted, them and Tyr had a real good relationship for for a while, but eventually Tyr ended up dying for what he believed in.
That's right. Tyr was actually
Not
cool.
only had he seemingly stumbled upon things that he shouldn't really
Tyr
know,
empathized
he
with
also
us and
caught
the other
the
races of
attention
Azeroth.
of a now old god corrupted Loken. Loken is another one of those Titan Keepers, and Yogg-Saron got to him. Loken ensured Tyr's destruction. So Tyr died. Some time passed.
Tyr's fall.
And at some point in the timeline, those other proto-drakes, likely the ones that we see in Tyr's lab, rebelled. They despised how the Titan Keepers
Yeah, it must
had
be Pete. I didn't do the
twisted
quest yet, so maybe,
Dragonkind
Sam.
into the form of the Titan Keepers choosing. Right? One designed to uphold the Titans' ideals. Dragons that were supposed
Tyr's
to
the
lay
man, he
their
is.
lives down to protect someone else's vision. So no, the Incarnates thought, screw this. They wanted an Azeroth for Azerothians, pure dragons to reign supreme. And so the Dragon Wars began. A lot of bad things happened on all sides. Neltharion bred an army of Drakthir to do his bidding, but when those Drakthir failed, he turned to even darker means which would rapidly turn him into the Deathwing that we would go on to know. And
See the Drakthir in this cinematic? They're thicker, man. These are thicker Drakthir boys. Look at these guys. We should have gotten some thicker Drakthir. Some body options.
Deathwing that we would go on to know.
See, these
And
Drakthir
from
clearly
what we
lift.
understand, the Primal Incarnates, which is of course Razageth, who we defeated as the first boss
Thanks,
of Dragonflight,
Rako.
plus those 3 other characters we just saw in the cinematics, Farak, Iridikron, and Viranoth, they waged war against the Aspects,
Oh, yeah.
only to eventually be defeated. This is how it went down. Razageth was imprisoned by Neltharion on the Forbidden Reach when she foolishly attempted to solo him. But it did
Can't
force
solo,
him
come
to
on.
finally give in to the Void to get the upper hand. Next, Farak and Viranoth were captured and put into the Vault of the Incarnates. And after a monstrous struggle, Iridikron was finally subdued and imprisoned alongside
They got owned.
his family.
They did.
For some 20,000
Imprisoned for
years.
10,000 years.
Alex
Illidan style.
leader of the Aspects, basically just couldn't bring herself to kill the Incarnates because they were her
Okay.
clutchmates. Before she looked the way that she does, she was just another proto-dragon,
Yeah.
kind of like they were, right? They did go back. They were, in a way, family. But while she saw this as a mercy, it's not how the Incarnate saw it. They saw it as torture. After their imprisonment, they believed that death would have been a mercy. But it was not a mistake.
it does kinda
that they
suck.
would let Alexstrasza get away.
I don't know if they were asleep the entire time, but yeah, they were in prison for quite a while, so I'm sure that was complete torture.
with. And with all that, you actually have the backstory. So now, today's events. The Drakthir, Deathwing soldiers, arose from their stasis, confused and alone, only to soon meet Rathian and Abyssian, who had actually travelled to their home while chasing down the Primalist threat led by Kurog Grimtotem. The Primalists successfully freed Razageth, who is the Incarnate whose temperament very much matches her stormy aspect.
Yes.
With her came an impenetrable storm that cloaked the Forbidden Reach. And while we would later go on to defeat Razageth, she
Owned her
held
multiple
out for
times.
long enough to do a bunch of damage to us and also to free her kin. So by the end of the Vault of the Incarnates, Razageth was dead, but Iridikron, Viranoth, and Farak were free. After speaking to the Aspects, we end up learning that this trio's dangerous, but especially Iridikron.
Iridikron, yeah.
Because he went
He's the big boy.
beyond his side's rejection of the Titans, right? It wasn't just an ideological dispute. He embraced war. He lived
The
for
man
the
loved
fight.
killing.
He turned foul, and before the end, he made a terrible bargain to keep his side alive. A big question then is, which
Who? Yeah, who did he
who did he
bargain?
make a bargain with?
What the hell?
If he made a bargain with Void, as Deathwing did, then I think that would really be quite boring. So, I have to
Yeah,
assume
it's probably
whoever he
something
made
else.
a bargain with is pretty damn
What if it turns
different
out it's the
to
light?
Void. We don't know yet, but we're sure to find out.
Oh, shit.
Alex
I don't know,
Strasza
that'd be-
believes that the other Incarnates do not actually know how depraved Iridikron is.
The Titans
Which,
are
I mean,
supposed to be of
seriously,
the
if you
light,
look
but
at
what if they're playing both sides?
I mean, if the other bad guys don't get how evil Iridikron is, then what does Iridikron actually have planned? Who did he make that bargain with? Who's going to be calling in their debt for all that power that he has? Regardless, their sister had died, and they couldn't just devour the hearts of her murderers. Iridikron is too smart for that. He knows we're really strong. He said he would not underestimate the aspects. So, as Razageth's storm receded, they vowed revenge and set about their plan. They have two goals. First, to divide...
Ferak's the hothead. Iridikron's the one who keeps telling him to calm down. I think Ferak's going to be the next one we kill. He's going to be the next one we kill because he seems to be the one, you know, that's a bit too brash for his own good. He's trying to push too hard. I think he's going to be the next one we kill. He's the one who's very involved in the next patch. We'll see. Iridikron seems to be more of the planner. Like he knows what's coming, and he knows that we're strong.
Has a role to play in this plan, beginning with Ferak and the return to the Forbidden Reach. That is where the division of the aspects began, where Neltharion slowly was becoming Deathwing, and it's where the Incarnates would find the key to their plan. Quite literally, the key, the way to Aberrus, which is Deathwing's hidden laboratory. Deep beneath the earth, this is where he performed his darkest experiments.
Yes, this is where the void shit started.
A new form of magic called Shadow Flame, a mix of elemental fire and shadow. And that is the power that Ferak is tasked with claiming. But almost as important is opening the way for Sarkareth and his Sundered Flame, essentially Drakthir who reject us and really just believe that is their birthright, for them to go and chase after their legacy, to chase after the power that Neltharion had hoarded in.
Evidently, Sarkareth's embraced the void too, based on all the boss fight shit that we see about him.
The better it is for the
He's the final boss of the next raid.
Verinoth said herself in Ferak's wake that the Drakthir will succumb to the temptation of Aberrus. The Incarnates knew then that they were being followed. They let the Drakthir see them. They believe that there is a darkness in the Drakthir, a darkness that we
of the three right now,
darkness that we...
I would say she's... I forgot her name. That's because she's so forgettable right now. She's the one with the least personality that we've seen. I think part of her personality is supposed to be that she's stoic and quiet. But she's the one that I understand the least about so far. I don't know when we're going to kill her or when we're going to fight her, but she's very closed off right now. Night Fae looking one. Yeah, she does look like a Night Fae one. Whack.
That there is a darkness in the
We're going from killing ancient godlike dragons to killing scrawny,
come to the front
edgelord
Aberrus. Now that darkness,
we got some power reduction.
The corruption
we lost our legendaries, that's why.
Eventually gave into. So we will see Sarkareth embrace that legacy, and that is where divisions will truly set in. But before any of this patch 10.1 stuff happened, they had to actually find
It's a badass cinematic.
Verinoth quickly deciphered the location of Aberrus, and the Incarnates opened the way with this pretty epic scene of Ferak diving through the earth to claim the Shadow Flame. The thing is, this is corrupting stuff. Just look at this early experiment.
Oh man, this is going to be a sexy mouth.
Plates just to keep its form. And as strong as Ferak is, this stuff is going to change him. All at Iridikron's command. Orchestrating this, Iridikron, the Earth Incarnate, seems smart, but evidently is willing to essentially sacrifice Ferak, right? Even his own brother, for the destruction of the aspects. So what's key here is that we may not even end Ferak in Aberrus. He's not a raid boss. Where will he meet his end? Will it be in the campaign? Will it be in a later patch? Perhaps the mega dungeon of patch.
Maybe the mega dungeon. So I was going to say, I think Mr. GM came out and said the mega dungeon is going to be like 4 dungeons split. It's going to be massive. But we have no indication. We're going to kill him in this patch, I would say. There's no way Ferak's going to survive the patch. But I have no idea when.
10.1.7. Something tells me Iridikron has a plan for the power that his family is collecting. And that brings us to Verinoth's job. Just what could Iridikron expect? And where does the Incarnate story go next? What should we be on the lookout for?
The dream. Oh yeah, the dream.
Verinoth is clearly being set up as the schemer, the smart one who worked out Neltharion's cipher to find Aberrus. But her mission.
She's the smart one. Yeah, the smart but quiet one. We just haven't had a lot of lines from her. Whoever her voice actor is either underpaid or underworked. One or the other.
So much greater than just figuring
Just hasn't
stuff
said
out.
a lot.
She is after the Emerald Dream.
She's
We're
after the
nearly
Emerald
certain
Dream.
that is where we're going to be going in patch 10.2 with this data mined Emerald
Yeah,
Dream.
so it
gear,
totally
the
makes
gear
sense that
one.
Farak is going to die in this patch, and then the next patch will be like an Emerald Dream style patch where she will die. And then the last one will be Galakron.
Day.
10.3,
We may even
essentially.
learn how we get there in patch 10.1 if a certain leak ends up being the case.
I didn't watch anything about this
is all
damn
quite
cinematic.
fascinating
Bellular,
because
shut
it
your
actually
mouth. I don't want to
slots
hear about
together
it.
with other things that we've seen. And the thing we've seen is ice. Yes, it should be no
Spoiler-free.
surprise that ice primalists have been attacking the Onaran Plains and the Emerald Sanctuary. You may have missed it if you didn't do that quest, but they have been. They are preparing for their boss showing up. It could even be foreshadowing that Viranoth froze the tree in the opening the way cinematic.
Yeah, maybe.
There's also huge similarities between her and the Winter Queen in looks.
Everybody
but also
says
a bit
that,
of
yeah.
ice. I mean,
thought she was
ice,
like a
it
reused
kills
model at
life.
first.
It freezes the essence out of things and traps them. An antithesis to life. I don't know, who better to invade the realm of life, I suppose. It seems like that's what they're setting up. But if Farak is
Freezing
going
the
after
dream over.
Shadowflame, then what is Viranoth going after? What's she going to do? Is she going to make a deal with the Nightmare? Take Void into herself? Become Shadow Ice?
Ooh.
Well, maybe
Shadow
not.
Ice,
It
that'd be an
actually could be a
interesting
lot
team
more
mod.
straightforward and directly foreshadowed.
Purple Ice, I guess.
In the Leveling Up campaign, when we saw the Primalist future, when we traveled there via the temporal conflux,
Right.
we saw an Azeroth covered in ice. We know, of course, that the Emerald
That's true.
Dream has a hardcore connection to Azeroth, right?
Yeah.
When you
Yeah.
change things in the dream, they can change on Azeroth. Some people even think that the Emerald Dream is a blueprint for the planet. So,
Yeah, I
the
believe
path
that
to the
one. I think
Primalist
that's right.
future could very much be the freezing of the heart of the Emerald Dream,
Oh,
which
shit.
perhaps then could spill out onto Azeroth, causing the primal future that we visited in
Thanks,
10.0. Who knows? Freeze the tree and freeze the world. It would make sense. Whatever it is, though,
Freeze the
it
tree,
all plays
freeze the
into
world.
Iridikron's hands. And he is the final piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, he's 10.3. Let's see what 10.3 is going to be about. Let's see.
Iridikron is definitely the boss. He manipulates
he's
his
the big
kin
bad.
and has completely lost himself to the war against the aspect.
Like if we had gotten a box for the expansion, Iridikron would have been, and like it's an old style box, you know, the old way they used to do it. Iridikron would have been the big bad on the front of the box. I think that's how they would have done it.
From what has been set up, he has no problem.
Man, you know, someone could
using
probably make some really good money coming up with old style box art where the big bad is on the front post expansion. So like what the Shadowlands one would have looked like, what the, you know, it'd be pretty cool. Somebody making some old style box art
those around
with big
him,
bads on the front.
sacrificing his brother and sister. I think anything is fine as long as he wins. The way he's setting things up, Farak and Viranoth are traveling
They
to the
stopped
Isles,
doing the
gaining
big bads
power.
at Mists. Mists of Pandaria was the first one that they put just like a character. They had the panda on the front. There was no big bad on the front. But the first 4 expansions all had the final end boss.
To fight in a war that they still think is glorious and principled. But
Obviously not
they
the first
likely
war.
have no idea what Iridikron's true intentions are, or who
Shadowlands would have been a
Iridikron
pile of shit,
struck
though, yeah.
bargains with 20,000 years ago. After all, they just got out of stasis, and they were put in stasis before Iridikron was captured.
Yes.
Perhaps even before Iridikron struck that bargain. So if Iridikron has not told them what bargain he struck, they have no way of
He
knowing.
seems to be holding back from
And this,
telling the
of
others
course,
what he's up
is
to.
where we see
completely.
the huge similarities between Iridikron and Neltharion.
Birth of Earthy
Both
boys.
gained their power from the earth. Both made terrible bargains for more power. Yet Neltharion made his with a twisted sense of honor. After thousands of years, he only gave in to the Void when it was to protect the world from the incarnates. Whereas
Right.
Iridikron made bargains with some unknown power or entity just to keep the war against the aspects going. So it's clear he will do anything to fulfill his own desire. Pure destruction. Maybe he's working towards a larger goal. But if he is,
Obviously,
you don't necessarily
whoever he made the bargain with is going to be told to us at the end of the expansion, and that'll become, you know, the big bad in the next expansion. I'm not sure. I have a feeling it could be the light, and we could be betrayed by the light. All the Titans realized that the light was fighting the light this entire time. I don't know. That would be an interesting one.
understand it. Could also be the case that he is a little bit of a pawn for whatever he struck that bargain with.
Yeah.
And he's going to be willing to do that, even if it
Imagine
means
the Titans
sacrificing
playing
his
both
brother
sides, and they're
his
like,
sister.
whoever wins, we
Brings me
win.
to the final thought. If we do not kill Farak in 10.1, we may not kill Viranoth in 10.2, which just
interesting
leaves
thought.
a final confrontation with Iridikron. But the question is, what's he going to do with all of this power? I mean, maybe the other two, in Iridikron's eyes, are just pawns in his deranged
Yeah,
plan.
that's what I'm saying. They
And
might just be pawns, and Iridikron might be the only real big bad. That's an interesting thought.
and it's definitely that. Maybe they're just batteries to somehow use their power. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't know, Galakron, he consumed others to get power. And speaking of Galakrons, it seems that either Galakron
Maybe
will
they
be
help
back
us
or
fight
we
him.
will go to him in something that involves Nosdormu turning into Morazond with Chromie and Evil Chromie. And that is all stuff that was teased by
Infinite
Maria
Dragonflight.
Hamilton in the
Give me some
recent
Infinite
Wildcast
Dragonflight
episode. So I
skins,
think that
please.
really does draw into fairly sharp focus all the things that we've talked about today. And I guess that just means, and she really did emphasize like Iridikron's big, very, very bad plan. And it makes me think that whole point of Viranoth and Farak not knowing whatever bargain he made, I think that is going to be absolutely essential
Interesting,
in this story. Just that, I think, unlike that situation, like they can't do a situation and just like completely mirror Deathwing. That would be very boring. So there's going to have to be some
can't be a-
twist on it, I
Right.
think. Okay, let me know what your theories are. If you would like to
Interesting.
get this very dope, very, very nice collectible coin, the first one we've ever done, as well as the other cool loot and a bunch of
Good stuff.
behind-the-scenes content.
Bellular
early
is always
access and all
dropping
of
good
that,
stuff.
you can check out the Patreon link down below. With that said, thanks. I'll see you next time.
I think the most interesting thing he said was the whole Iridikron playing the other two aspects. And maybe he's the only one we end up killing, because right now I think we're going to kill Farak in 10.1, but if we don't, that would change my mindset on what's going to happen next. Interesting.